Okay, hello everybody. I'm going to do a short podcast here about some of my thoughts related to how to apply to a master's degree program. I'm going to use my previous blog post about applying to PhD programs as a guide just to show you where that is off of my website under about. I've got links to various things, one of which is my WordPress site, eSuess at wordpress.com, and down on the web pages to the right, applying to PhD programs. I'm just going to make a couple of comments. So I've been asked lots of times about applying to PhD programs. I've worked with a number of students who have applied to various universities and have gotten in over the years, probably 1 to 7 people a year since I've been a faculty member have gotten into PhD programs. Much of the advice given here is transferable into thinking about applying to master's programs. I'm in the process of modifying this, giving my slight modifications to it for thinking about applying to just master's programs, because there are a few slight differences. The usual student applying to a PhD program is in our case, is applying from our master's program. Usually, there are occasionally people in their undergraduate. Well, if you're an undergraduate student and you're thinking about applying to a master's program, the initial thoughts about that should really be taking place just as you're becoming a student in your major. So sometime during the fall or winter of your junior year, thinking about applying to master's programs is about when you should get started. The goal is to get your applications in before the deadline, right? The easiest way to not be considered or accepted into a master's program is not to meet the deadlines. So I'm going to go through my points on applying to the PhD program. So first point, you need to really think hard about what you want to pursue a master's degree in. If it's the same major as your degree, that's good. People tend to change their plans later on, having been out of school for a while. So I'm going to think about an undergraduate in their junior year in a particular major, thinking about going into the same field or very related field, the year after they graduate. So, the first thing is you've got to develop a list of universities. Right? How do you do this? You need to use Google, and you need to search on the particular major at various universities. Very important to think about what the faculty are doing at the particular institution. Some departments that offer degrees have various curriculum. Some of them include topics that you're interested in. Some of them do not. You need to make sure you apply to programs that offer the topics that you're interested in and that have faculty actively working in those areas. You should read over the application from each university in your list, right? You should really, and I'll back up for a second, you should really try to find, it's $1,000 to apply to these programs these days, trying to sort of split it up so that you have a wide variety of schools that you've applied to, say 3 top schools, 3 middle schools, and 3 out-of-the-way schools. The out-of-the-way schools are maybe just less applied to because of location. And I'll just say I don't think you should be using location as a determination of the schools that you apply to. It should be the content, right? This is something you would do in the spring. You should read over the applications. You should certainly think about which faculty member at the university you're thinking about applying to is doing the research or doing work in the area that you're applying to. The quickest way to be denied for admission is to say you want to study something they do not do at their university. Do your homework, right? Make sure your statement of purpose is addressing things that you're interested in and that the faculty at the university you're applying to do. Your statement of purpose should be drafted and be done somewhere around September, right? This process is really something you would do in the summer, at least drafting it out. Study for the GRE, right? Depending on the program you're applying to, you've got to take the entrance exams. Most departments require a GRE. Not all, right? but it's generally the case that if you're going to apply to a number of schools, at least one of them is going to require it, so take that. You need to identify your references, right? This is something that you should really think about, while you're a junior. The reason for this is that the applications for graduate school are due as early as mid-November these days. That would be mid-November of your senior year, in which case you would only have, spring and summer of your junior year to even develop references. Because if you're trying to get your references fall of your senior year, you will not have even completed the classes you're taking. Think very hard about the idea of waiving your references. If you're applying to PhD programs, I always recommend that people waive their right to see the letters. Gives the people that you've asked the ability to write more freely. This applies to master's level applications also. Key thing, apply on time, right? I have December 1st. I've seen as early as November 15th these days. This is the most important deadline. Prepare a package to give your recommenders, right? So when you ask somebody to give you a recommendation, don't just ask them and walk away. You need to prepare a package that includes the list of the universities where you're applying, what the due dates are, statement of purpose, draft of that, GRE scores, in statistics you'd want to include your math scores, list of all your courses you've taken, in particular the ones you've taken from that instructor. Include any projects you've done showing, the product of your work, your writing, and anything else you can think of. A few days before any letter is due, check to see if the recommender has submitted their letter, and if not, send a nice, reminder email. After applying, you have to wait, right? Once you wait sometime in March, April, they're going to send you something. It's either going to say yes or no, most likely, but then for some programs, they're going to say maybe, right, which really means yes without any funding. The maybe really means no, right? You don't, in most fields these days, unless you're going to go into medical school or something, the pay is not going to justify spending a lot of money on, a PhD program. For a master's degree, everybody basically pays. There's rarely the case that funding comes along with admission to a master's degree. It's possible. You should certainly ask. For the yes universities, you should ask if you can come visit. Is there funding to do so in your final decision-making process? You should go with the program you think you're going to be most successful in. Discuss your decision with your references and others you trust. Ask yourself whether you can do this. Make the best decision you can, right? This is usually a difficult process, right? Your dream is sometimes the case, and maybe sometimes that dream is not actually the best choice. Who knows, right? Or you didn't get into the best places and you want to still go to graduate school, right? If you want to pursue the dream of getting a PhD or a master's degree, you need to do what you can do, right? If you got in someplace, take that opportunity. If you work in graduate school, make sure you pay attention to their retirement plan. This is a small bit of advice that I wish somebody would have mentioned to me when I was in graduate school teaching courses at a university. Usually, as a TA or even an RA in a university, there is some sort of retirement plan that goes along with the employment. That retirement plan is most likely going to be putting your money into the least aggressively invested thing, and this goes for any employment, right? You should pay attention to that thing. These are just my thoughts about applying to PhD programs, and I'd say master's programs. I suppose the first thing to say is that if you're interested in applying for a master's or a PhD program, you should come by during the first year of study in a master's program, or in your junior year if you're an undergraduate, to begin the planning, right? If you show up your senior year, you don't have enough time, or if you show up during your second year of a master's program, you really don't have a lot of time to apply. I've seen many people end up taking an extra year in a master's program, or even an extra year in their undergraduate, to meet all the requirements. Okay. So anyway, I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, you can certainly email me, eric.suess@CSU East Bay. Thank you.